This tweet is going viral right now because apparently the press is pissed off that content creators are at the DNC. They see it. They feel what the fuck is happening. Their obsolete asses are being replaced and they hate it. And by the way, content creators have been telling me as we go through the day that they've been getting side-eyed by members of the press when we've been creating content on the blue carpet and interviewing elected officials and celebrities in the hallways. Let me explain something to you motherfuckers. For members of the press that still don't get it, yes, y'all are being put on fucking notice. See, the reality about social media platforms and their algorithms is that with one tweet or one video, I could pull millions of views. Like here, 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 and here. You get the point. See, y'all can only dream of getting that nightly on your shows. I can get it in minutes. And you can't motherfucking take it. See, the cohort of content creators that were invited to this convention are the good ones who have been recognized for their continual coverage of the issues that matter most to people. See, the difference between us and you is that y'all are lazy and sensationalist. You report information and spin it to rile up groups of people in hopes to get clicks and views. We combat misinformation and raise awareness to the issues that matter most to our people. You see how that works? Clearly it's more effective because we got your motherfucking seats. Prime example, y'all being mad we took your seats and talking about that as opposed to the issues and the powerful speeches that we've been hearing on the convention is while y'all are in the fucking nosebleeds right now. And fucking good. More of your seats should be gutted until you get with the fucking program. And no shade, if we're being all the way real, the content creator area should have been reserved seats for every single content creator there. End of story. Oh, and by the way, I'm on my way to the fucking convention center right now. So pull up to me and tell me that I don't motherfucking belong there. Because as the saying goes, if you got something to say it to my motherfucking face.
Blue wave, we rise to save the day. Only me, only you can let our hearts sail away on a blue wave.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. I think the mainstream media, corporate legacy media has failed so spectacularly, and it's become more obvious under Donald Trump because we can see that this man is unfit to serve in any public office, and they're okay with giving him the nuclear codes, and yet constantly there's a double standard when they report, when they ask questions, even when they ask questions to Biden, questioning his age, and then pretending that Donald Trump was somehow okay, that he was fit to be president, when all he sits there, and if they'd ever listened to any of his speeches, and you can tell they're not paying attention to the crazy stuff that he puts out there on his stupid platform, True Social, or they're not going to his rallies because he never talks about the issues. He says the craziest stuff. He says things like, energy, that air, that wind is the most expensive form of energy. That and that, and look at all he talks about the Byrne cemetery underneath these windmills all the time. Like he cares about that. First of all, that's not true. They don't build windmills like that anymore. But also because it's just ridiculous. He talks about electric boats and sharks and Hannibal Lecter and Al Capone, and he never talks. And they keep saying stupid shit like, "Oh, he needs to stick to policy." What policy? What policy does Donald Trump ever supported? What has he ever laid out policy?
Yeah.
What were his policies when in 2016?
None for me. And admittedly, I was not watching Morning Joe when they allowed him to phone it in and get free campaign time. Okay. So I was not in on that. But for me, that right there was, the beginning of it. And then of course, we moved into the Trump years and our favorite MSNBC giving prime spots to former Republicans or never Trumpers. And then those former Republicans were able to bring on all their buddies at the New York Times. And they started, and I was like, wait a minute, where the hell have you guys been? Because they were starting to sound a hell of a lot like we did. Like the things that mattered to them seemed to be the things that we'd been talking about for decades. But here, you know, so we have that. And then we get into the Biden time frame, and they do 24/7 coverage of all of the indictments and all of the court cases. And granted, some of their time should be dedicated to that. But what they didn't do was they didn't talk about the amazing recovery that we were seeing. They weren't talking about all of the many accomplishments of the Biden-Harris administration. And now here we go into, then they go into hiring Ronna McDaniel. And there was that outrage. And I was like, okay, you know what? Fuck y'all. And then we move in to the pile-on after the Biden campaign. So not only are you guys not talking about the policies and all of the shit that he was able to get done, despite the fact that he and Kamala Harris, and it reminded me a hell of a lot of what happened with Obama, inheriting a fucking mess that Republicans created. So now they're piling on him, and he's talking about policy backwards, forwards, and yet what do we witness? We witness a bunch of these legacy media people piling on like rabid dogs, okay, because he misspeaks and gets a couple of names wrong, right? And so now they want us to continue to take them seriously. I am like, peace out on all of the MS mainstream media.
Well, we have choices now.
Yes.
We don't need the networks. We don't need legacy media. We can go to Midas Touch. We can go, I listen to podcasts like the Professional Left podcast, and you're aware of that. And let's see, Midas Touch. Who else who's doing really good work right now?
Brian Tyler Cohn does really great
Real
work.
Real American or something. Isn't that what they're... I don't know. They have a bunch of different,
there's a bunch of influencers. Too Raw, Too Real is amazing. Political Sis,
Politics Girl,
JoJo from Jers. Yeah. You have all of these amazing people, and we're just scraping the surface here. Amazing people that are doing actual factual journalism and reporting things as they're actually happening.
And they are actually happening.
And they're actually happening. And not the way the media and all of the C-suite execs and whoever they're fucking beholden to, Anita, not doing
the New York Times.
Look, New York, thank you.
It all comes out from the New York Times. Everything trickles down from the New York Times. Mm-hmm. In other words, the New York Times decides they're going to destroy Joe Biden, because he won't do a sit-down interview with them. And he is being, and the New York Times thinks they are entitled to every president sitting down with them and doing an interview because they're the New York Times. And so everybody starts reporting. They take the lead. They take their lead from the New York Times. Mm-hmm. And so the New York Times was at war with them. They don't, every story, they never reported. Nobody. If you go look up Bidenomics, it's always negative. Bidenomics has been a complete success. Yes, inflation has been a problem, but inflation was a global problem as a result of recovering from the COVID pandemic, and we had supply side issues. And we have recovered. We have brought inflation down faster than any other economy in the world. We have the greatest economy in the world. Right now, we are exceeding, our GDP is exceeding pre-COVID 2019 projections. Mm-hmm. That means we didn't even know COVID was going to happen and destroy the global economy. Mm-hmm. And so this was projections made thinking we were just going to keep going on the trajectory that we're at. And this was the projection. Mm-hmm. And we've exceeded that. And if the stock market is 50%, the stock market is 50% higher. Startups, people who are starting their own businesses, is higher than it's ever been in history. We have wage growth. And this is what's fun. This is what's great about the Biden economy is that the bottom 20% has actually seen the fastest and the largest wage growth.
Yeah.
Wage growth, which has actually brought economic inequality, is actually trying to lessen economic inequality, something that the left has been talking about for generations since Reaganomics.
Yeah. So, of course, who would know any of that because of the mainstream media and because of networks like CNN? And then they get all butthurt and they start saying like, oh, she's not giving us an interview. We're not getting any access. And,
I know.
And so then, and I'm just going to say, I did not watch the whole CNN interview with Dana Bash and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. So, I mean, I believe
I won't watch it. It was on CNN.
It was on CNN. So I would not watch it. Like I will go in and I will get like the highlights. And one of the things that, she spoke about, and, to your point about the economy. So this is what she had, the exchange she had.
You talked about, you call it the opportunity economy. Yeah. You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. Yeah. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it. Which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years. What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
So you talked about...
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but isn't that nice to actually hear somebody articulate that, very clearly? And this is something that the mainstream media completely ignored.
Well, the way she framed it, there's a crisis in affordability. Can you really say, what about the Trump supporters who say they want to go back? There was no credit given to what the Biden-Harris team did by getting us out of the crisis that we were in when he came into office. Mm-hmm. Just like there was no credit given to the Obama administration for getting us out of the crisis caused by the Bush administration. Just like there was no credit given to Bill Clinton for getting us out of the Reagan-Bush disaster of trickle downs. And, at that time, I can remember during Reagan's, do you remember the housing crisis or the, so Democrats constantly are rescuing the economy, rescuing us from whatever disaster Republicans gave us, and then having to take care of that before they can ever start, pursuing their own agendas.
Right, exactly. And then, of course, with Obama, I heard people say, like, he didn't do it fast enough. Or,
I know.
With Biden, well, we still are feeling, prices at the grocery store.
Oh my,
And it's like,
yeah.
it's like, okay, but, and this just speaks to the ignorance of the electorate. And this is partly because mainstream
Of
media
the media. Yeah.
fails
Yeah.
over and over and over again. They are lazy
To
as
tell the
shit.
story. To tell the
Yes.
story because they're lazy.
Right.
And that's why people are turning to alternative media.
Mhm.
Because if you just listen to mainstream media, you're ignorant.
Right.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Nope.
Because you're supposed to not even understand a historical perspective of anything.
Mhm.
There is no context. It's that, oh, well, people say, what about people that are saying there's a crisis in affordability, they want to go back.
Mhm.
Well, they don't give you any context to that. The reason why there was an affordability crisis because there was as far as like home ownership, that's probably one of the biggest things, how much
Mhm.
homes are costing. It's
Mhm.
because we weren't building enough homes. And
Yeah.
also because corporations were buying them up.
Yeah.
And you're in real estate, you see this all the time.
Absolutely.
You're probably very aware of it.
Absolutely. I mean, what they tried to do for to alleviate student loan debt, and then who stopped that? Republicans stopped that. The Supreme
Yeah.
Court stopped that. And despite that, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were able to still continue with it. They found a workaround so that they would still be able to alleviate that for millions of Americans. And the reality of the situation, in my job,
Yeah.
student loan debt is one of the number one obstructions to home ownership in this country.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
But also there was higher interest rates.
And
But
higher interest rates.
what was the
Absolutely.
reason for that? Because we just got out of a COVID epidemic. Supply chain issue. It caused inflation. They were trying to lower
Mhm.
inflation. It was a mistake, I think it was.
Well,
But-
yes, Jerome Powell, because what was going on was Jerome Powell was addressing the situation as though it was domestic inflation, not
Well-
global inflation.
Right.
So there's a different way to approach it. And he was, because again, Jerome Powell, maybe not the brightest bulb in the box. I don't know. What do you think?
No, they have a playbook. They have
Yeah.
a playbook, and that's all they need. They have to go by. So when
Right.
there's inflation, what do? You increase interest rates. And that's all they know, not the context that it was in following a pandemic, a global pandemic.
Is that the University of Illinois?
It's the Chicago School of Economics. You've heard of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's where Reaganomics came from. It's where trickle down came from. So you should be, yeah.
Mhm.
So anyway, yeah. It has, and granted, they did increase interest rates, which made it harder, more expensive to buy homes and more
Mhm.
expensive to buy cars and to get loans.
Mhm.
But now that's going down. Inflation is going down. They're cutting back on interest rates. The point is, we came out of the COVID epidemic, the global pandemic,
Mhm.
faster, at a faster pace and better than any other economy in the world.
Mhm.
And yet they talk about it like, that COVID never happened. They excuse the fact that Donald Trump left office with $3 million less than when he started.
Mhm.
With unemployment at what 6 point something percent. Now it's under 4%. It's been under 4% for
Mhm.
years now, a couple of years now. And they excuse that. They excuse everything that happened during COVID. Oh, well, that was because of COVID.
Yeah.
Even though that's not true, because we were heading into a manufacturing recession pre-COVID. But the point is, the stuff that happened, inflation happened because of COVID, because we had supply chain issues. And by the way, those have been fixed now, but yet the corporations still do not want to lower prices because they're like, hey, people will spend this much. Let's, charge them this much. Let's see how much more we can charge them.
Yes.
And how much
when Democrats tried to do something about price gouging,
they voted against it.
They voted against it.
Republicans
Right.
all voted
Republicans.
against that. Yeah.
Yep.
So when and you know what what did they do in 2022? What did they run on? What did they run on? Solving inflation,
Yep.
lowering gas prices, all these big promises. And then what did they do? They came in and investigated Hunter Biden, harassed him, tried to impeach Joe Biden. Ended up that one of their witnesses was a Russian spy, and the other one was a Chinese spy, a spy for China, and then another one had to testify from prison. That's the kind of things they were doing.
Yeah.
And so
none of the time and effort spent on all of those endless investigations helped me pay for my groceries.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
Not
They
even
didn't.
when they protected your appliances.
No. Can you believe it? Like I was checking out. I mean, I tried and they're like, yeah, ma'am, no, we can't take that.
No, we can't take protect your gas stove coupon.
No. Yeah, that
they actually had Freedom for Refrigerators Act.
Yeah. Do you get points? Yeah. Do you get like frequent flyer or frequent buyer points for grievance? I am so pissed off.
I have so many of those.
Can I cash how pissed off I am in for Starbucks?
I don't think so. You might be able to use them at Subway.
Oh. They're easy.
It's true. So anyway, the point is, the mainstream media is a failure.
Yeah.
They are not telling you how great a job Biden is doing. There's so many ways that he's doing good. Great. Look at what we talked about. This was OPEC. He has beat OPEC. OPEC has taken down presidents. Okay, they are very powerful, and they've controlled the oil market in the world, the global oil market, for decades. And Biden finally broke them by releasing millions of gallons of oil from the strategic oil reserves we have here, and actually getting them to have to lower the prices.
Yep.
So, and now for once, the first time we actually are energy independent. The OPEC won't dare. I remember leading up to this election, people like Tom Hartman kept talking about how Saudi Arabia was going to start raising oil prices and OPEC was going to start raising oil prices to try to influence the election, because presidents have been broken because of oil prices. Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford, those. And so anyway, what Joe Biden did was he took away that threat. Because Saudi Arabia definitely wants to see Donald Trump.
Oh, of course.
In the White House. And so do all our adversaries, because Trump, that his former national security advisor, J.R. McMaster, right?
Yeah.
And he wrote a book, and in it he talks about how all of all the foreign leaders knew Donald Trump was easily manipulated, and our adversaries took advantage of this all the time. All they had to do was flatter him, and he would basically give them whatever they wanted. These are our adversaries.
Sure. Well, and I remember, and I've told you this story, when I was working selling furniture, and, my Trump-loving manager had to put in the system a 25% increase to all of the furniture that we were selling. And that is because of the tariffs that Donald Trump negotiated, claiming that those were attacks on the on China, or on the people that were that we were importing.
The Chinese government.
The Chinese government, right? So of course, Anita, you can explain it probably better.
We pay tariffs. Yeah. We pay for the tariffs. Yeah.
Right.
Consumers.
So when that 25% increase occurred, that was because of the frickin' tariffs. So don't sit there and, piss on us and tell us it's raining. That is not a tax on China. That is a tax on U.S. citizens and consumers.
Well, Donald Trump does not understand tariffs, and he cannot admit that deal was a failure, because he got owned by what's his name? G. That's how you pronounce it. He got owned by him. Everyone they thought, and he says it in this book, he calls him the world's chump. Donald Trump was the world's chump.
Yep.
And he could not admit that because he's trying to be this strong man, but he's every strong man's bitch is what he is.
Yep. Yeah.
So just wanted to mention that.
We can end the podcast right there. No, just kidding.
Mic drop there.
This episode of TruBlu Politics is brought to you by Night Sky Woodworks, featuring gorgeous products like cutting boards, cheese and charcuterie boards, and beautiful tea light holders, all finely handcrafted in their Chicago, Illinois wood shop. All of which have eye-catching designs and make the perfect complementary piece for any kitchen or living room. If you use TruBlu, that's TRUBLU, at checkout on their Etsy shop, you get 10% off any order, which is a pretty great deal if you ask me. So go check out their in-stock designs today or message your custom order request on their Etsy shop today by visiting etsy.com/shop/Night Sky Woodworks. That's etsy.com/shop/NITESKYE Woodworks and use TruBlu at checkout for 10% off. We couldn't do this without our loyal listeners and love hearing from you, so please give us some stars and a review if you're so inclined wherever you get this podcast. TruBlu Politics is sponsored by our wonderful TruBlu crew of listeners and our supporters on Patreon. As a small startup podcast, our Patreon members help us pay the bills to keep our podcast running and also allow us to keep investing in equipment upgrades for even better quality content in the future. When you sign up as a monthly TruBlu crew member at even just $5, you instantly unlock our private TruBlu pod chat and full episodes a day earlier than everyone else without ads in the middle. Upwards from there, we've made even more perks available, like having your name shouted out at the end of our show and a personal Zoom call with me and Anita to discuss ways to overthrow the GOP. If you would like to become a Patreon subscriber at any level, go to patreon.com/TruBlu Politics Podcast. That's patreon.com/TruBlu Politics Podcast. And as always, thank you for listening and for all of your love and support. So this is National Security Advisor
Andrew Sullivan, talking about the economy.
Today, the United States has the strongest recovery and lowest inflation of any leading economy. We've created nearly 14 million jobs, including 750,000 manufacturing jobs across all 50 states. Real wages are rising. We've had 23 straight months of unemployment under 4% for the first time in half a century.
So to kind of wrap this up, this is exactly the kind of stuff that Dana Bash could have looked up before she even sat down with Kamala Harris. Instead of you know what I mean? Like
she made it sound like the economy was a liability. It's not a liability.
No, but it's just, it is boggling to me that any of these people have jobs and that they're taken seriously by anybody. Because I mean, this is stuff that, like, honestly, you know, is a known. But Dana Bash, apparently this is like, she hasn't heard any of this.
No, well, if she watches her own station, she probably hasn't.
Right. Yeah. But, you know, yeah.
Was it ever covered on CNN? Was it ever covered on MSNBC at all? Besides Chris Hayes, the regular news? Yeah, during the day? No. And it's certainly not on Fox.
Did the New York Times do
No, of course not. No. Mm-hmm. New York Times had a narrative, and they were going to continue with that. And if there's a narrative, they are never going to abandon that narrative.
Yeah.
If the narrative is Biden is terrible, Bidenomics is terrible, then that's what they're going to write about day after day after day. There was like 80 articles about Biden being too old. How many were there of Trump?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the New York Times.
Oh God. Yeah. Too many to count. So, Yeah. And then, of course, Dana Bash, then asks the most ridiculous question. And I'm glad that Kamala Harris addressed this way. Let me just play this and get your reaction on the other side.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah. Any same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Yeah, that question was so absurd. I cannot believe she gave it the time that, that she actually asked it. What was she supposed to say? What was she? Oh no, I'm really black. I mean, what was she supposed to say?
Well, this is the thing, though, and this is why Kamala Harris is handling this whole situation brilliantly. She's not responding to the ridiculous. She's not even giving it the time of day. When they ask her, "Well, did you hear Donald Trump?" Because this is their aim is to keep Donald Trump in the mouths of everybody and have us all outraged and pissed off and reacting to the bullshit that he's saying.
Because it gets eyeballs.
Yes, because it gets eyeballs. Instead of focusing on the serious issues that serious people in this country want to hear.
Or the fact that he's a threat to democracy, okay? Yeah. About Project 2025. I mean, the Washington Post, when Kamala Harris talked about Project 2025, they actually fact-checked that to say, oh, well, he's distanced himself from that. So that's not true. That's not fair. That's not fair. Even though he's flown on a number of planes with the author of Project 2025. What is it? 144 of his staff members are directly involved with Project 2025.
Yes.
He has some of his advisors right now are people who are trying to get who have done what do you call that? Like, not explanations of Project 25, but they've actually been on video talking about Project 2025. People who are advising him right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I found out that the little part in Project 2025 that talks about what they want to do with housing was written by Ben Carson.
Oh, Ben Carson doesn't know anything about housing.
No. So we did this. No, we're not going back.
No, we're not going back. We're not going. Let me just say something real quick about Project 2025 and reproductive rights. Because now Donald Trump he actually tweeted, I am going to be the best president on women's reproductive rights, which is so ridiculous. First of all, look at the people he's endorsed.
Yeah.
Every single one of them is one of these crazy pro-lifers who want a national abortion ban. I would say 99% of them. Yeah. Because you have that crazy guy in North Carolina. What is his name that's running for governor? He's the lieutenant governor right now. Can you?
Oh, God.
Mark, is it Mark?
I'll look it up. Keep talking. Go ahead.
Yeah. And he has endorsed the most of as long as they say, oh, they like Trump. I mean, there's the guy that's running in Ohio against Sherrod Brown, Moreno, I think his name is.
Yeah.
There's been an investigation right now because he used Mar-a-Lago. He paid a bunch of money to have some events there. And that's when Donald Trump endorsed him. Yeah. Because he made money off of him. Yeah. And nobody even knows, I mean, if he just paid him directly or he actually had the events there. But the point is, it's funny because this is a pattern with Republicans. They use Donald Trump. They somehow find a way to funnel money to Donald Trump. And then all of a sudden they get an endorsement from him.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is actually Mark Keith Robinson.
Yeah, Mark Robinson.
Yeah. So he's been as the 35th Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina since 2021, a member of the Republican Party. He is a nominee for governor in the 2024 North Carolina gubernatorial election. He is North Carolina's first Black Lieutenant Governor and first Black major party nominee.
But he's insane. He says women shouldn't vote.
Yeah.
His own vice president, the guy he's running with, said that pregnancy as a result of rape or incest is an inconvenience.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just inconvenient. They should be forced to give birth to their rapist child.
Yeah, I mean, he's a conspiracy theorist. I guess he came to prominence in 2018 when a video of him defending gun rights at Greensboro City Council meeting in the wake of Stoneman Douglas High School shooting went viral. So of course that's enough, right, to be able to.
Oh yeah, anybody can be a Republican now.
Yeah, I mean, and then so here's some other little fun facts about this guy. Robinson has promoted various far-right conspiracy theories, engaged in Holocaust denial, denied sexual assault allegations against various prominent figures, and has often made inflammatory anti-LGBT, anti-Semitic, racist, anti-atheist, and Islamophobic statements. He opined in 2023 that abortion should be completely outlawed in North Carolina, despite his paying for an abortion in the 1980s.
Yeah. Him and his wife, they weren't married at the time, though. Also, they ran a daycare center that was shut down with allegations of abuse.
Right.
Just so you know.
Oh, okay.
They love the children.
They love the children. Yeah.
So, I'm just saying. If Donald Trump was so protective of women's reproductive rights, why would he be endorsing kooks like this?
Right.
Who want to take away all our rights. And he's by the way, this guy, very anti-LGBTQ. I think you mentioned that. Yeah. So he's just full of crap. Yeah. And you can just look at the endorsements. I'm challenging everybody. Look at who he's endorsing. And then you'll know who Donald Trump is and what he's going to do.
Absolutely. And, and you contrast, to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and, just all of the amazingly progressive things that Tim Walz was doing.
As a football coach. When he was a football coach, he sponsored the, the Gay Straight Alliance Club that they were starting in 1999.
Right.
In 1999, remember, George Bush ran against gay rights in 2004. And here he was in 1999 when it was not popular.
Right.
And he was one of the sponsors. He was the faculty sponsor of that group. So yeah, he's always been a good guy. He's a great guy. He gave free breakfast and free lunch to all children in Minnesota. He and this whole tampon thing, which is hilarious. Tampon Tim.
Yeah.
Was started because he signed a bill allowing menstrual products in for any student that needed them free of charge, like in bathrooms.
Yep.
And now they're saying, it was in boys' bathrooms. No, they didn't put them in boys' bathrooms. Right. They just had them there for any student that needed them.
Yeah.
They were free of charge. And believe me, they have done studies that prove that poor children, one of the problems they have is getting sanitary products, and they stay home.
Right.
They're not going to school. So it was an important issue for a lot of teenagers. I know I would have loved to have that when I was a teenager.
And it was completely ahead of his time as far as
absolutely
that goes, too.
Yeah.
And there was this interview too with one of his former students at the DNC. His name is Jacob Wrighton. Reflects on starting the Gay Straight Alliance with Tim Walz and Gwen Walz being the first adult he came out to.
Yeah, the 90s was not an easy time to be a gay student in America. And Tim and Gwen Walz made Mankato West High School a safe place for me to come out and to start the Gay Straight Alliance.
How so?
Well, he was a faculty advisor. Gwen was my teacher. Tim actually wasn't my teacher, but when Gwen started English literature class when I was a sophomore, she started by saying this is a safe place for gay and lesbian students. I'd never heard a teacher say something positive about gay students from the front of the class, and that signal is the reason why she was the first adult that I told that I was gay. And from there, we had a series of discussions, both with her and Tim, about their beliefs on gay and lesbian issues and why they were a source of support for gay students.
God, that makes me cry almost.
I know, because
That was so sweet.
well, and it's such a critical time.
It really is. Yeah.
For so many people that know that about themselves
Yeah.
and then are afraid to talk about it and come out, and it's just like it's so beautiful.
I know that she stood up there in front of the class and said, this is a safe space.
Yeah, I know. It's just like this is I mean, that's what we want. This is the America that we want.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like we have to remember this, Anita, that the majority of us are for that. The majority of Americans
want our kids to feel safe.
Want our children to feel safe, and even if it's not our own children, want other people's children. Just want people to feel like they belong, like they're not they're not fringe. At this point, I mean, they are not fringe, and it is just a damn shame that the Republican Party, this is one of their key agenda items.
Oh, look, they are against anti-bullying laws.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Because they like the world, the country that what we were when kids that were gay were beat up if they came out.
Yeah.
So they had to stay in the closet. And they're okay with that as long as you don't stay in the closet. We don't want to hear about it because a lot of Republicans are gay, but they live in the closet, unhappy lives.
And then they're passing legislation in Texas criminalizing getting gender affirming care and going after the parents of transgendered.
They talk about parents' rights.
Yeah, right.
They like to talk about parents' rights. Well, what about the rights of parents to get their children the medical care that they think they need?
Right.
Isn't that their right to get their kids gender affirming care?
Yeah.
Well, we don't need people, government telling us as parents what we can get our children, what kind of medical care we can get our children, what we can get ourselves.
Right. It's and this is why it is so important to frame it as this is freedom. We want freedom.
Yep. It is all about freedom.
It is.
It really is. The freedom to be who we are, live our true selves, the freedom to control our own bodies, read the books that we want to read. I mean, in Project 2025, they're going to make porn. They want to ban porn, make it illegal, and criminalize people who produce porn. They will be criminals.
Yeah.
So they're anti-freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
They're about control. That's what Republicans have always really been about.
Right. Well, their freedom, when they say freedom, what they mean is you can be as ugly and violent towards people who you view as less than.
Freedom to bully.
Freedom to bully. And then, of course, freedom to, if you're a large corporation, pollute the water, pollute the air. That's what they mean.
That's exactly right.
Deregulating to such an extent that it is detrimental to the health and welfare of the people.
For banks to be able to rip off people.
Yeah.
Corporations to pollute.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the positivity, the hope, the joy, the jubilancy, watching the DNC last week was just palpable. Even if you were watching from home, it was absolutely an amazing experience from front to back. There was a moment, and I know you saw it, and I know anybody that was watching saw the moment when Tim Walz's son, Gus.
When Tim Walz was accepting the nomination.
He was accepting the nomination, and his son, who is neurodivergent, stood up, and he was crying and clapping and so proud of his dad, just this unabashed pride.
Joy.
Joy.
Pride.
Exactly. Yep. And I mean, and it's just, and of course, and I know you and I talked about this, we knew as soon as we saw that, what MAGA social media and
I remember you telling me.
Yeah, people like Ann Coulter. Yeah, remember I was like, oh God,
they're going to really target him.
Yeah. And then of course on cue, and even people, and not this, I'm not surprised by this, honestly. Ann Coulter.
Yeah, she's a total bitch.
She's a total bitch.
I was going to say the other word, but
I would say C word. I would, but I
yeah,
will.
it's true. She
Might
does.
be some people listening that still are offended by that. But
Uncomfortable with that. Yeah.
for me, it was Ann Coulter that made me start using that word.
Because she really is the embodiment of it. Yeah.
She really is. No, she is. So then there was this piece of shit in Milwaukee, Jay Weber, and he posted here, and I'm just gonna.
He was on the radio there, right? He's a local personality. Yeah.
Local personality, and I'm happy to say that iHeartRadio canceled him.
Yeah.
But this is what he said, and his Twitter handle is @JAY Weber WEBER 3. Sorry, but this is embarrassing for both father and son. If the walls represent today's American man, this country is screwed. Meet my son Gus. He's a blubbering bitch boy. His mother and I are very proud. And let me tell you, a few people that I know that, are proud Minnesotans, and one in particular who was on our Zoom call, Dr. Ann, she was wrecked at the bullying that was going on of Gus.
Wow. Yeah.
She was in tears on our Zoom call.
It was painful.
It's very painful because you knew exactly what was coming.
It broke my heart. Yeah.
Exactly. These are the same people. We know what was going to happen. Who were going to, because of the toxic masculinity, because of the bullying, if any male shows any kind of warmth or emotion, it is like they're so fucking damaged.
Oh, they are.
That is so foreign and so taboo for them. It just shows the depths of their damage. And so, but here's the good news. People were not having it. So
nope.
These MAGA motherfuckers, and I was listening to Stephanie Miller earlier, and they had Frangela, Angela V. Shelton of the Detroit Sheltons and Francis Collier, and so they were talking about how Black TikTok was not having it. And
the fact that Gus Walsh has gained a lot of aunties over the past couple of days, including myself. Y'all gonna stop playing with my nephew. Y'all gonna stop playing on this social media about my nephew because I'm that auntie. I'm that auntie that's gonna pull up. Stop playing. I'm her. And I don't play by my babies. And Gus is my baby. Y'all better leave him alone. Consider this your first and final warning. Do you hear me? Leave him alone. I'm not to be played with by my babies. Understand this. Gus, TT got you. I got you. Like one call, that's all. One bird signal, one text, one call, that's all. Because I'm her. I'm coming in my bonnet and my lashes and all. I ain't playing Emma good for the flops. Emma good house coat on. Not house coat, my house gown on. My moo-moo. TT coming. One call, that's all.
How great is that?
Yeah, that's adorable. I mean, yeah, that is so great. He did it broke through. It was on like those
sure did.
Hollywood access and shows
Access
like that.
Hollywood, yeah.
TMZ. They're all covering it. So it did break through. And people were talking about Gus and this neurological disorder that he has and being on the spectrum. It was just a beautiful thing. Everybody was so positive about it and just fell in love with him.
Yep. Yeah. And that I think is the thing that we need to keep reminding ourselves of it is that the majority of Americans are done with this kind of shit. We're done. We're
not broken evil MAGAs. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, look, we get it. Y'all are damaged. You had some really terrible shit happen to you. Clearly you have suffered some sort of trauma. But here's the thing. There's this little thing called therapy.
Yeah. Well, they can't do that. Yeah.
So get your broken ass selves to some therapy and let us live our fucking lives in peace.
Yeah. Yeah. Go be miserable all by yourself. I mean, seriously, if you won't get therapy, then you really they just want to make us as miserable as they are. That's the whole point of them.
Exactly.
And
It's like clearly you guys, and they run around playing the victim all the time
yeah,
because they're being called out for, their damage and
for being weird.
the shit that they do, for being weird. But this is the thing. We will look, I mean, there were January 6th defendants. I can't remember her name. What was her name? But she's kind of
The
come to
grandmother, I mean,
Jesus,
the older
and
lady.
she's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
She said she gets a lot of threats.
yeah, Pam
Yeah,
Hemphill.
Pam. Yep, from South
Right, Pam
Carolina.
Hemphill. So, I mean, it is possible for them to pull themselves out and see things more clearly. But, bottom line is, if you are running around trying to take away other people's freedom, attacking other people because they are different or because they don't fit some sort of image that, or that looks like you, well, then get the
That
help.
you create that.
You have a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. Well, they can't even live up to the models that they create for them. I mean, this kind of faux machismo bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And half the time, the people doing that are just, they're closeted gay people, or
Right.
like Steven Crowder, like to wear dresses and makeup, like JD Vance, who we saw many photos of him in drag.
Yeah. Yep.
And wears eyeliner constantly. He wears eyeliner, by the way. You can,
Right,
from what which is fine.
Okay, that's fine.
That's fine. But don't just sit there and pretend that, or just, spew that hate about other people that don't want to be miserable like you.
Right. Exactly. So speaking of weird and inappropriate and infuriating, we were going to talk a little bit about this story that came out of Arlington National Cemetery,
Yeah.
where Donald Trump posed for a campaign ad photo, right?
Oh, they made more than that. They made a TikTok video out of
So
it.
it was a
Yeah.
TikTok. Okay, so so
And
TikTok
Instagram.
video. Yes, and so Anita, if you want to speak a little bit to that.
Well, apparently they were trying. They've been planning this for weeks, and they called Arlington and asked for permission to make this political campaign ad at Arlington. And of course, Arlington said no. That is against our policies, against the law.
Mm-hmm.
And so they went and they got MAGA Mike Johnson, who's a speaker, unfortunately, to call up the people at Arlington and ask for permission. So he was given permission. First of all, their first thing they wanted to do was hold some sort of memorial ceremony for these people killed leaving Afghanistan, and the 13 leaving Afghanistan. And they wanted to have this memorial ceremony and then just start complaining about how Kamala Harris didn't even bother to attend.
So it was all staged.
It was all staged.
Are you telling me that they were staging something?
Yes, it was all phony. Yeah. Anyway, so fake news.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that fell through, I guess, that story. But anyway, they got permission to go there. And I think it was just to take that he could go there with the families, because the families had invited him, some of the families that support him for whatever reason, I don't know. But so we went there with them, but they were specifically told they could not videotape this event. They could not take pictures for promotional purposes because they do not allow political campaign ads done at Arlington. Otherwise, you'd see that all the time, by the way.
Right.
They would use it as a prop all the time, Arlington. But so they went there knowing full well they were not supposed to be videotaping it. And they got in an altercation with the woman there who was supervising it. And they got in an altercation. Apparently they pushed her. There was some sort of assault. And Corey Lewandowski was there, by the way.
Yeah.
His history. And they got in and they did their thing. And then JD Vance, as a matter of fact, kept making all these statements about it, denying it and then confirming it. And he also said something about how, and we were invited. They knew, and that Donald Trump was invited, and that they were, it's not, they haven't taken any, they haven't made any ads for television or anything. He worded it specifically for television because they put the ads on TikTok and Instagram and any other place on online. You could find it.
Yeah.
So it was just an awful, it just shows you that everything is fake. And not only that, but he went to that in front of with the grave right there of this poor woman that was killed in Afghanistan, trying to help people get out of Afghanistan, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And he's posing there with this stupid shit-eating grin on his face and with the thumbs up thing that he does all the time. Like when he's meeting with Kevin McCarthy at Mar-a-Lago, he always does a stupid thumbs up thing.
Right.
It was just so inappropriate and vulgar.
Disrespectful. That is hallowed, sacred ground. And then, and this is the thing too, that, with the family,
they're Gold Star families, okay? We're not going to disparage them.
So these are Gold Star families. They're not going to say no to somebody who is a quote unquote former president, right? So that, so maybe a little bit of leeway in them even inviting him, including him in it. It's still, I don't quite understand that.
Yeah.
But the situation is that is hallowed ground to many Gold Star families and families of fallen soldiers, and to desecrate it in that manner. Not to mention the fact that it's illegal. Nothing probably will come of it. Like the woman who was assaulted doesn't want to press charges because she's afraid. Because she's afraid. This is where we are. And like you say over and over again, this is the playbook of fascists. This is how fascists behave.
Yeah.
Through terror and intimidation. That's what they do.
Yeah, because she's afraid because she knows that his crazy thug supporters will find her family, start issuing death threats. Who knows what else they'll do. But also it's just another piece of evidence of how much Donald Trump has no respect for veterans or people or our fallen heroes or people who've been captured. Remember, he said, I don't like them that aren't captured. He disparaged John McCain. He called them suckers and losers. We know he did because John Kelly said that, confirmed it, and he was his chief of staff. And Donald Trump can deny it all he wants. Oh, I have 19 people that say it didn't happen, but they weren't there. John Kelly was there.
Right. Or the one where he didn't want to have his picture taken or be around that amputee.
He didn't want to be because he didn't like that look. And, and also the whole thing with the Medal of Honor and the Medal of Freedom.
Yeah.
The Medal of Honor is for people who have done, heroic deeds in the line of duty, like saved a bunch of, lives. And a lot of times it's given posthumously, but other times it's not, but that's not the point. The point is it's given for doing something extremely heroic beyond, what you would normally see from somebody in the, in a war. But the Medal of Freedom, he gave that to Rush Limbaugh. He gave it to anybody who was, would be, talk about him nicely and helped him electorally, like that woman. What was her name? What's her name? Sheldon Adelson. Sheldon Adelson. Okay. Yeah. His wife, Marianne Adelson, he had given the Medal of Freedom to, and he wanted to remind her of that. And he gave it to her because she gave him millions of dollars for his campaign.
That's right. Oh God. How did we? That was recent. Yeah. And
that was recent. So anyway, he wanted to remind her that because they were sending her nasty emails about the way they were running that PAC, that super PAC. And they felt like they were they said, all you have is a bunch of rhinos, some really nasty stuff in it. So she was telling them, and there were people telling them that they threatened her donations because of all these nasty emails he was sending. So he had to go up there and remind her you know, and sweet talk her like he thinks it's sweet talking. That, you know, you tell a woman that she's beautiful or something like that, and they're gonna fall over themselves for you. But he also said, you know, wanted to remind her that she had given her that. Don't forget that, Marion. You know, don't take. Yeah. So anyway, it was disgusting, and he doubled down on it just the other day. I think yesterday. That comparing the two medals as if you could compare them.
Right.
At all.
Right. No, it's just there's no depths that he won't go to be vulgar and disgusting and inappropriate, and he is absolutely still a threat. Thanks to
but the media is not telling us that. The media is just pretending that he's just a normal candidate. This is a normal political race. There's no, you know, he said he's not doing Project 2025, right? Didn't he say that?
Yeah.
He said he's going to protect the reproductive rights.
Right.
Even though everybody he's endorsed is either, you know, for a national abortion ban.
Right.
So, you know, but the media, just because he's told us 30,000 lies, doesn't mean, you know, he's not telling the truth, right? About.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, but okay, so we are I just want to mention that the clips that we played on here will be on our @TruBlu Politics Twitter feed. I will try and get those all over to every social media platform. But if you want to follow us on Twitter, we are @TruBlu Politics, and also on Facebook and Threads and Instagram. So everybody should follow us there. And we are very grateful for everybody that's listening. We have our two $20 Patreon subscribers, Bobby Ferguson, who may or may not be related to Anita. And then we have our dear friend Lori Kish up in Minnesota. And special shout out to you for lending us your
thank you, Lori.
governor. Yes, thank you very much. We are extremely grateful, and we know how many wonderful things that Tim Walz has been able to do as governor in Minnesota. And we are so grateful, and we are so sorry for the abuse that his dear son Gus had to take even for a minute by these MAGA assholes. But we've got him. We are all his aunties.
That is back, and I don't think yes.
But I do want to mention, Anita, I was on a panel for Kitchen Bitches for Kamala. That took place earlier in the week. It was a fundraiser for the Harris Walz campaign. I highly suggest that if you weren't able to attend it, it is on YouTube under Corona Kitchen. So you can go and see that we had some amazing speakers, among them Rachel Bidikofer, David Ferguson, Kimberly Johnson, Angela V. Shelton,
Francis
Francis sadly did not join us, but I'm sorry. Yes, Blue Gal, you are correct. Yep. So and Steve Marmel was on. I know that I'm forgetting so many people, but anyway, everybody get over there, check it out, and get involved. This is what we need to do. We are under 70 days. We're under 70 days for sure.
Somewhere 69, maybe
69, it may be at this point. But what we need to understand is that this is all hands on deck. And there are many, many opportunities. If you go to KamalaHarris.com, many ways that you can get involved. There are trainings for volunteers. There is a way to have access to Reach, which is an app where you can actually create social media content and share with your friends, share via text with your sphere of influence. But this is what we need to do. We all need to get hands on deck, register voters, have the conversations, because Project 2025, if you look, there is always something that will resonate personally with people that you know, whether it's the environment, whether it is healthcare freedoms, whether it is LGBTQIA protections, protecting our institutions. There is something in Project 2025, and we can have these real conversations with people that we know. We need to go to vote.org, make sure that you register to vote, check your own registration, and get other people registered and make them understand this is the election of our lifetime, and we have got to get uncomfortable and get out and get activated and do something. As the call from Michelle Obama, do something.
Yep. Do something. There's so many different ways that you can help, even if you can only help monetarily. That helps fund a lot of the other things. Yeah,
that's right. Text, phone bank, write postcards. So there's so many ways to get involved, and we all need to do it. So on that note, it's been a pleasure as always, Anita.
Yep.
And
Karen.
Yes. So
we'll see you in 2 weeks.
We'll see you in 2 weeks with we are going to be announcing a special guest as we get closer. So in 2 weeks, look for that announcement, and we will put that on our social media. All right. Well, on that note, thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you next time.
See you later.
There's no time for worry. Let's show the world our pride. Whether another comes up with a surprise, we all will discover where our fate will lie on a blue wave.